Yeah, I want to say hello and welcome to everyone, to what I think is going to be just a really, really fun webinar today. Extreme collaboration and co-creating with Surface Hub and Microsoft Teams rooms. I'm Joe Dalecki, Program Manager and Architect here at Unified Communications. I'm joined, as always, by Ryan Herbst, Chief Strategist for UC, coming to us live from the future of hybrid meetings there. Nice background. Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, thank you. Well, we are super thrilled to have a couple of rock stars on the Microsoft side. So Frank Buchholz, who is Director of Product Marketing for Surface. We think of him as the godfather of Hub. And so we're, I think, super lucky to have him along with Mark Hodge, who's a Surface Global Blackbelt or Surface Ninja, as we may call him. But we've got two of the most kind of authoritative sources on Hub here with us. And so, yeah, Frank and Mark, I wanted to give you guys just a quick chance to introduce yourself for anybody who doesn't know you and just share a little bit about what you do in your roles for Microsoft.
Sure, I'll go first. So Mark Hodge, I am a global black belt, as you mentioned. I do support the areas in the South, so I'm out in the field and dealing with customers every day. I'm an overlay resource for the sellers when it comes to all things Surface and particularly the Surface Hub.
Yep.
Nice.
And hey, I'm Frank Buchholz. I work on the Surface commercial marketing team here in Redmond, Washington, and I'm actually coming to you from Building 88, the home of Surface. And I actually have a little bit of history with this product line. I used to work for a company called Perceptipixel that Microsoft acquired about 10 years ago to bring the Surface Hub product line into life. And so now we're on our second generation of devices, and we give a lot of demos out of this particular studio here in Building 88. So it's my pleasure to be able to join the Unified Communication team with Ryan and Joe. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, welcome to the show, gentlemen. It has been a while since we were actually, the three of us, Frank, Mark, and I, were on stage together at Inspire. So it feels good to be back together to talk about all the latest Surface Hub collaboration and co-creation experiences. Just a couple announcements before we dive in. The chat is open for your questions, so feel free to put any questions you have about Surface Hub or Teams and Teams rooms into chat. We will answer as many as we can, or as many as we're allowed to at the end of the program. There are going to be a lot of live demos of the new features and functionality, so you'll definitely want to stick around for those. And finally, we are really excited to be able to give away to one lucky participant a pair of Surface headphones. So stay tuned, find out how to enter for your chance to win those. All right, so let's kick things off. This is a bit of a daunting topic, but it's really top of mind for a lot of folks. And Mark, I know that we're seeing a lot of changes in the world of collaboration, and specifically as we start to plan for the future. So what do you see as the most important questions we need to be asking ourselves?
That's a really good question. Because I think you got to take a step back and look at the big change we've been through. And I want to look at it from just a remote work perspective. And how the mental model of remote work has changed from pre-pandemic to pandemic to post, right? Because pre-pandemic, remote work is not new, but the mental model of that was really associated around, it was a privilege, it was a temporary thing. Maybe you stayed home for childcare, home repair, severe weather. The technology you used for that was a phone and audio channel. So it means you missed out on a lot of the meeting, no visual, nonverbal communication, interaction. So there was an inequality baked into how that did, and an incentive for you to go into the office to be in the room where it happened. Go to the pandemic. If you were lucky enough to be able to work remotely, you were asked to do so. And we all learned new technology. Video conferencing was definitely the technology of the pandemic. And then it brought a level of equality, right? We all have our own video squares, and so it kind of equalized things out. Everybody had their set of pixels. And during the last 18 months, Microsoft Teams has been going crazy introducing new features to say, hey, how do we recreate that in-room experience on the digital fabric that connects us through Teams? Hand raise, reactions, chats, different layouts, so my mind doesn't have to work so hard looking at the screen. And so a lot of work has been done on that. As we go into this post-pandemic section, which we're calling hybrid work, but to me, that's still just remote work. but we're calling it something new, not just Microsoft, the whole industry, because it has a different mental model associated with it. There's going to be a more permanent set of people working remote. But as you go back into the office, we reintroduce that inequality we had previously, but it's kind of flipped on its head. What do I mean by that? So I go now into the office and I share my video square from the meeting room with 6 or 8 other people. And so if I want to be large and noticed in the meeting, there's now an incentive to stay at home and have my full video square so I get maximum pixel real estate. So then the question becomes like how do we get people back into the office? And this is where the concept of room design and thinking about what's the right percentage of meeting rooms versus personal individual space, what's the technology we put in there, the furniture, how do we redesign all this stuff? The Surface Hub is a key element to drawing people back into the office and giving them technology they can't do at home. So I think this is a good place to kick off and have Frank then show some of these capabilities.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, for sure. And what I'm hearing is that there is this appreciation for the idea of co-creation and the role of Surface Hub in that hybrid experience that you talked about. And Frank, as Mark mentioned, that is quite an impressive studio that you have set up there. We should probably put some of that technology to good use. What do you say?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I am here, like I said, in my studio to give you a little bit of a focus. And maybe if we can put the spotlight on my room, then we can actually you can see everything that's in here. But besides putting the spotlight on me, I do want to ask one other favor of everybody on the call. If you go in and right-click on the video of me coming through to you and click on Fit to Frame, then you'll see everything that I'm trying to send through to you. So we actually have multiple cameras in here, and we actually have ways that we can grab the feed from inside the Surface Hubs that we have, and we can actually make that a little bit more visible to you. But we know that when we add people panel or chat panel, it sometimes crops the view. But Fit to Frame will make sure you see everything that you need to see. I actually hope that the Teams team allows me as a presenter to force that in the future. So, hey, again, what I want to showcase in this space, and I just want to jump right to it, is I have 2 unique meeting room solutions in this space. I have a Microsoft Teams room. This is the Poly version, but know that there are many other versions out there. There's versions from Crestron and Logitech and Yealink and all these other vendors, including Lenovo, that make a Microsoft Teams room. The great news, though, is they all provide the exact same experience. They just vary in their touch panel and camera, speaker, and microphone, but the UI is the same. So no matter how many different solutions you buy, your users or end users will always have the exact same experience. But I also have a Surface Hub behind me. And so the difference between these 2 devices in my space would be that the Surface or the Microsoft Teams room is very focused on bringing a premium quality of audio, video, and conferencing into a meeting space. Let's face it, not all rooms and many rooms don't even have audio or video quality within them yet. And so bringing Microsoft Teams room into that space really delivers that standard in that space. So things like video teleconferencing and presentation, that's the sweet spot for a Microsoft Teams room. But for the Surface Hub, it can do all of that, but it can also do more. It can do things like collaboration on whiteboarding or co-authoring across a PowerPoint or being able to bring in your own Office 365 experience of Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, or the Edge browser, or native applications that the device runs itself. So when you look at it, I always think if I was a CIO, how would I balance out these 2 spaces? I think, a high percentage of my spaces would be standardized on Microsoft Teams room because they come in at a lower cost. But then for my collaboration spaces, I would start to look at where does the Surface Hub come into play. Now, we have a special setup here that we call coordinated meeting, where we actually have 2 devices, both of these devices in the same meeting space. And that brings an environment where now you can have gallery view on a lower cost LCD that's driven by a Microsoft Teams room, and then collaboration with the Surface Hub in this space as well. And so let me go ahead and showcase that and show you exactly what that looks like. So on the Surface Hub, the thing to know about a Surface Hub is it's built for walk up and use, meaning I don't have to authenticate to the device in order to use it. So let me go ahead and just tap on this device. And the thing that you'll notice is that because the two devices are set up with coordinated meeting, both devices will join the meeting simultaneously. And so you'll see the Surface Hub join the meeting, and now you see the Microsoft Teams room join the meeting. And they both join in what's called gallery view, people first, because we want to be able to see those that are remote or those that are in the space with us in the same light. Everybody has to have a democratized experience. And that's important in this kind of hybrid work environment where people that are remote or just in a not in the same physical location that I am are just as much in a front row of being able to participate as those that are in the room with me. And so that allows us to have this experience between these two devices. So that kind of introduces the concept towards how these devices work and being able to walk up and use them. Again, I think the one point that I would point out is that both devices essentially use what's called a device account, which means that I can schedule the device just like I schedule adding maybe Joe or Ryan or Mark to a meeting. I just invite them by an email address, and each of these devices have their own email address. And the cool part is in Microsoft Exchange, you can tie that room account or the device account of the device to the room. So when you schedule the room, you schedule the device as well. And that means that all you have to do is walk into the room, one-touch join, and all of a sudden, now you have your devices all joined into the same meeting, and you've balanced out the camera, speaker, and microphone between these two devices because there's a trust between the two devices in order to join that experience. So Joe, hopefully that helped explain a little bit.
Yeah, no, that is great. So how easy is it to set up that coordinated experience? When I've got a Teams room device and a Surface Hub, how complex is that configuration, and how do I set what device is handling audio so that I don't worry about getting that awful echo loop?
Well, let's actually show you. So let's go ahead and jump inside this 85 right now, and I'll walk you through it. So in this case, I can walk straight up to this this device, and I can come up to the device and be able to go straight into it in order to show where I can actually come into settings on the device, come under device settings, and then be able to come in and actually set up how I want the device to be configured. And so I can come in here and set the camera, speaker, and microphone that I have, but I think then I can also come in and be able to set up the ability to turn on or off the capabilities. Now, I'm trying to remember, I think you may have caught me in my own ability to not understand the technology, but I think that you have to not be in the call to set it up. So so sorry about that. Quick misstep, but it would be that essentially it's just another magic button that allows you to click on that and give you the ability to see the other device that you want to create a trust with, and then essentially set which device has the primary camera, speaker, and microphone in order to set that trust up. So it's pretty much that.
And this is a really, I think it's a very, very interesting technology because in the past, we certainly know that Surface Hub has a very important role as a standalone device. It doesn't need a Teams room, and you could use it in a conference room. You can use it commonly used in open areas. It's used as a mobile device. We'll talk more about that. It can be Wi-Fi and battery powered, and that has a very valuable kind of role these days for as a lot of organizations are still trying to figure out real estate or where they need Teams meeting capability or in executive offices. But this concept of being able to bring both the Teams room and the Surface Hub together, where we have a more traditional kind of space. It could be it could have four walls around it and a table. And we like the idea of the experience with the Teams room and the center of table console and that world. And we know that that's a very kind of common and pervasive it's kind of very mainstream at this point for customers that are to deploy Teams rooms in big ways. But we also, in this hybrid world, have a hard time calling this room truly hybrid if we can't kind of roll up our sleeves and do more than just see and hear with some of the remote participants. So the idea that sitting on the sidewall in a Teams room that may be single or dual display in the front of the room, that we have an ability to get up and really engage and have meaningful collaboration with folks outside of the room. That's exciting. And so yeah, I think it's and this ability to control and not have to worry about echo. And it could be multiple hubs. I think we'll probably won't go that technical right now, but it could be a Teams room and a hub. It could be a Teams room and two hubs. It could be multiple hubs. There's a lot of really interesting things we can do with this coordinated technology. But I think the reality is it allows us to, without doing a lot of traditional AV and switching and kind of to do some pretty compelling things and bring this kind of extreme, more involved ability to create together and ideate together, both for the folks in the room and with our remote participants, super important right now. So yeah, we love this. And I think that, along with just a whole kind of, and I'm looking forward, Frank, to you kind of sharing this whole new experience that's been released with Hub in general, right? Because I think in addition to this functionality, almost everything that I thought I knew about Hub changed in the last couple of months in terms of experience. So I'm looking forward, if we go through some of the demos. I think for those of us who have been around for a while, you're going to see just even looking at Frank's Hub, it's a different experience than I saw 6 months ago on a Hub. And so between this coordinated meetings functionality and the way Hub has completely transformed itself to support hybrid meetings, it has a very unique role, I think, in terms of how we think about and plan for hybrid rooms.
Just one comment to build on your comments there, Ryan, is that, you know, if we're talking about Teams room in the front and we get the new Teams front of rooms layout, and we have all this extra data content up there, the Surface Hub plays very nicely into that. And it goes into, how do we design these new types of spaces to draw the people back into the office to do this collaborative work in new ways. This is the new mental model, right? Meeting rooms are not just, hey, sit down and talk about what we're going to do or what we just did. We're moving into the future.
Yeah, we don't want folks walking in and saying it's just so much easier at home. Like I can't really collaborate in these rooms, and so it's super important. Yeah, I think one little point is that even in that Teams room scenario where we've got, let's say, new setup, front row coming soon, or we've got singular dual display Teams room. That Surface Hub is providing value even when we're not standing up and using it. It is as Frank's showing, it is showing us an additional view of our gallery or of content. And so it has a valuable role, even if we're sitting down in a traditional meeting with a Teams room.
Right.
Yep.
No, absolutely. And you know, the beauty of this new Teams experience on Surface Hub is it matches the Teams experience on the Microsoft Teams room. But what it's really aimed to do is match the experience that you have on Teams on your own desktop environment. So what you've learned and kind of trained to use from a mental model as to how you use Teams on your desktop, walking into a device room where either a Microsoft Teams room or a Surface Hub is located, it will match the experience. So the intuitiveness and the kind of the learning curve is removed in order to jumpstart and get going. So
that was a huge change, seeing that new user interface on Surface Hub and having that match exactly up with what everyone is using on their PC. Having that match up and walking up to a Surface Hub and being able to just jump right into a meeting. You know, I don't think anybody at home has, 85-inch screens for their face-to-face meetings. So this is another great way to showcase that capability as well too. So
right. Well, we should jump in and show a couple of the cool capabilities. So
for sure, yeah. So let's I mean, I know we've talked a lot about what collaboration means, but what is true decentralized collaboration? What possibilities are there that we could leverage with Surface Hub for those that are at the office, maybe those that are remote or not at the same location, and how can we take advantage of some of the new collaboration capabilities that we have built into Hub?
Oh, no, absolutely. So I think some of the clear examples is Surface Hub is designed as a walk up and use device. And the key scenarios that we aim at for walk up and use are joining a Teams meeting, whiteboarding, and connecting a third-party device to the device. So, but the first one would be whiteboard. And in the past, the Surface Hub has had to log in to the whiteboard in order to collaborate with others. But the value here is that I can actually come to the device at this point, and if we jump inside the device, you'll see that if I open up my share panel, one of the capabilities is to open up the new Microsoft Whiteboard. So if I tap on joining the whiteboard, then it will open the whiteboard. But not only does it open the whiteboard for me, but it opens the whiteboard for Mark's device. So Mark actually has a couple devices. I'm in Redmond, Washington. He's in Washington, D.C., the other Washington. And he's able to actually start collaborating and authoring. And he's actually adding content onto here immediately. And then Alma is on here as well. And Alma is able to add her content on here. And so if I grab a pen, I can come in here and draw and add my own content onto this device. I have to find a pen that actually works. I think the second one I did is. And I can be able to bring this in. I can do some cool things on this whiteboard, like circle it and bring it into OCR recognizable text, and then be able to even scroll this different pieces in. Now, those are some super cool kind of just introductory pieces, but the fact is you just watched us walk up to a Surface Hub, and I'm able to collaborate with all my coworkers without even having to log into this device. And so that's a pretty cool experience. And across the globe, it's seamless. So by just launching the Whiteboard application within Microsoft Teams, and it's the same way that if I didn't even have a Surface Hub, but now I'm able to bring all those elements in. And Mark has a Surface Hub in his office as well. So
that is very cool. Yeah, I mean, the possibilities are endless. I think, it's hard to wrap my head around an infinite canvas where you've got this ability to collaborate with, just about anybody in the world on your team and bring that together and then have that live on afterward and come back to it later, because we want the life cycle of the meeting. We know that there's content that is created before the meeting, but then there's content created during, and we want to keep that content alive and maybe come back to it, on a recurring basis. So having that capability to keep all of that content together and stored in the cloud and go back to it later, whether, it's me or somebody else on the team, is just amazing. So that's really cool.
No, I mean, you mentioned that sometimes on our Teams side, not everybody's able to join the meeting and collaborate. But in this particular value, as long as you're invited to the meeting, you now have access to this whiteboard within Teams, and you can now come in, maybe watch the recording, and then even add your own content and your own comments towards it, even after the fact. So the value of being able to, save and record Teams or save in, these whiteboards in the cloud that everybody that was invited to the meeting has access to, it makes it super democratized. So whether you're in the meeting, whether you're remote, or whether you're coming to it even after the fact, all those provide great experiences.
I always like to add in the other mega trends around artificial intelligence and machine learning, right? It's automating the boring, mundane, repetitive stuff we don't want to do anyway, which gives us back free time. And we're being asked to use that free time to solve more complicated and thorny issues. And so my boss says, hey, go solve XYZ. And I go, I have no idea what that is. And to me, that moves upstream in the collaboration process to where you're at the very, inception of it. That's where you get those ideas out of your head onto the whiteboard as fast as possible, so you don't lose them, and
right.
use it as a researching tool and other things. And then you can move into other more formal tools on the Service Hub or in the Office apps like Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and bring some structure to the thoughts that you were just creating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think PowerPoint is probably a great example of that. And so at this point, we can actually, Alma can go in and launch what we call PowerPoint Live. PowerPoint Live takes a PowerPoint that is on your device, but makes it available to the entire team that's in the call. And the value there is it turns a presentation more into a collaborative session. And so that everybody has, again, this democratized ability to come in and access this PowerPoint. And so what you'll notice happening on my screen within the team side is that we loaded this information about this Contoso Mark 8. So I'm going to, at this point, remove my whiteboard or scroll it over to the side, because what I really want to do is Alma could advance the slide right now to maybe the second slide on this deck, but maybe I have a comment or something that I want to be able to add. Now, Alma could be across the globe or across the town or in another office, but I have the ability to take control of this and now come in, and it essentially creates a whiteboard space for me to add content and edit. So maybe if I jump inside the device for just a second, you'll be able to see that I can now bring up a pen, and maybe I want to say, hey, we want to improve the lens that we have on our Mark 8 to improve the focal point that it actually has on it. And so the cool part, though, is that now Mark, all the way in Washington, D.C., could actually take control of this PowerPoint as well and be able to add his comments and his own kind of additions. And he's saying that the rotor maybe needs to be a little bit more high speed because it wants to raise elevation capabilities and the other pieces that we would put in here. None of us are drone engineers, so we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants, literally. In order to talk about this, but
I thought Microsoft was getting into the drone business.
I know. So this really adds to that value of being able to bring in the capability of what we would see. And the nice part is that this PowerPoint could also be a deck that we all share amongst everybody in the Teams call. So afterwards, we all see the edits and enhancements that we've made to this deck, so we can continue the collaboration as it moves on. So, and I'll point out that I may have lost fit to frame I did on my device, and maybe Alan can help me out, but on your device, if you lost fit to frame, just go ahead and click fit to frame again. Sometimes I don't know why Teams does that, but it loses the focal point. So hopefully,
so PowerPoint Live is something that we're using here at UC when we have our team meetings and our group meetings. Being able to just have one person share the content, but then being able to take control and drive our portion of the meeting, it makes those transitions and flow through the agenda super simple and easy. So that I love that part that we're now able to take the hub and bring that into the meeting, and then have the annotations and the ink, all of that happening live during the PowerPoint presentation. So that just adds another really collaborative layer to PowerPoint meetings. And certainly we're all familiar with PowerPoint, but this is a much more engaging, collaborative feel with PowerPoint.
Yeah, no, I love it. It really changes the game. It brings more people into the presentation so they can add their content and kind of feedback into that space. So, yeah.
So what if I don't have any broadcasting software? I know you're using some broadcasting software. We had a question about controlling cameras and things like that. So what if I don't have any broadcasting software to make my presentation more engaging? And I really want to be in the content, maybe even be able to point to some of the content that I've got on the screen. How would I take advantage of some of the tools we have now with presentation?
I suppose it goes back to those, like if you watch, I'm sure you all are fixated in watching Twitch videos all the time. And I think, but if you have kids, they probably do watch that. But there is a capability within here where I can actually take control, and then also I can come in and actually add in my own visibility. So I can change, actually I'll stop presenting, and let's see. So hold on. I'm going to stop presenting here. And I wanted to be able to jump into the view. I'm not sure if Mark can help out in that, being able to do it from where you're located. I'm having a little issue in getting the presenter view to work correctly. So
if we start the PowerPoint Live and then turn on the camera.
That's right.
Right. I forgot. Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
I made that mistake in our rehearsal too, is that I forgot that you have to have your camera on in order to turn that on. So if we can start PowerPoint Live again, then we'll give that quick demonstration. So apologize for that hiccup.
While we're waiting, one thing I want to point out for anyone who's new to Hub, because the enterprise world is kind of littered with failed interactive display projects. And there's a lot of folks who generally kind of, if they think back pre-pandemic and in that world, are very hesitant around any kind of touch-enabled devices because they've seen a lot of failures there. And hopefully what you're seeing is that this experience is so fundamentally different because there is nothing that Frank is doing that is not part of my standard world as an Office 365 and Teams user. There's no application. I'm not coming in and learning some new special whiteboard, or everything that we're doing here is just kind of giving us an appropriately sized canvas and window into 365 in a shared space, which is so different than, there we go. Look at Frank in our
So if you maybe jump inside the device.
Yeah.
Here I can actually come in and point out, like, we should probably make a change to the size of our engine here so we can get a little more horsepower to get it up a little higher above the clouds here, or be able to change our rotor here and be able to even change that speed and the construction of it. So the different types of pieces where I can actually jump in and actually visualize myself within the data itself makes it all super cool towards how we're presenting this piece. So
I was honestly kind of stoked and surprised when I saw that the hub camera would do this when the Teams features came out and the new UI came out, and I saw that the standout mode was available, and had to test it out myself. And this is just super cool. I think this really helps to really make the presentations much more personal, so I can be in the content rather than having to split my focus between content and person and rely on that visual feedback from body language to really convey ideas. I can now be in the content. It's easier. It's less overhead for the audience to really pay attention. So everything, the meeting fatigue is much improved. And I think that all in all really helps to drive engagement and make the presentation just really more dynamic.
Yeah,
and that
no,
really all
absolutely.
happened in the fall when we updated the Teams client on the Surface Hub, right? So now it has basically feature parity with the desktop. So to Ryan's point, you do all this stuff as you're sitting on your desk and your laptop. You go into the meeting room with the Surface Hub. It's the same experience. There's not the, hey, I got to walk into some other piece of equipment and I'm already a minute late. I don't have time to learn this. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and hopefully everybody noticed. When Frank hit the up arrow to share content, that tray looks just like the tray on my desktop client. Like this is part of those kind of very, very significant changes to the experience with Hub
Right.
that allow us, for the same reasons that we love Teams rooms, which is there's this economy of scale and efficiency of being able to, and familiarity that the work we're doing around Teams broadly translates right into these shared space and meeting room experiences. And Hub now fits kind of squarely within that as well, where I think it was fair to say it wasn't that way in the past. So
Yeah, and one of the other cool features is that we can actually do chat bubbles. So if Mark on his device, or even if Alma adds in a comment into the field, I can actually see the comments as they're taking place through chat. So that again brings the kind of more consistent experience.
Because this is some of that early feedback that was coming from folks who went back to the office. I think all of us know there's a whole nother meeting happening on the chat side, and if we have shared spaces that can't participate in that, it's one of the reasons that we're definitely going to get poor feedback. So I think that the idea of being able to see that front of room through our shared space devices, and then being able to leverage our personal devices to actually be a part of it in the room, that kind of brings that out of room experience and equity into the room.
Yeah.
Huge quality of life improvement for the Hub and for Teams rooms. Being able to pay attention to chat if things come in, if people can't hear you and you don't know because you don't have chat open, those types of notifications from chat can be super helpful. But also, like you said, separate conversations could be happening, and you want to be able to pay attention to multiple threads. So that's awesome. I was super excited to see that as well. And one thing I know that we didn't plan to mention, and we don't have a demo queued up, but I know is super cool for me when I saw it, is the ability to give and take control of a shared screen from the Hub. So that added a whole new dynamic for me, being able thinking through the IT support side and how we might be able to take remote control of a Hub to do some meeting troubleshooting and live remediation during a meeting. So that part was very helpful for me.
Yeah,
the next thing we definitely want to show, and I think this ties back to what we were talking about earlier, is how easy it was to just walk up and start using it. But if we want to personalize the session, if we want access to some of the things that we've been working on in the past, or maybe things that we brought with us from our personal device, we have different ways to sync our profile and our persona with the device, and then bring in some of the tools that we've been using on Surface Hub with very little effort. And I'd love if we could show some of that as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I always think of there's what I call Surface Hub 100, which is walking up to the Surface Hub to join a meeting or whiteboard or join my own content from an external device. But there's also what I call Surface Hub 200, which is more of an authenticated experience. And so let me show you how quickly that can happen with a device like this iPhone in order for me to authenticate to the Surface Hub without having to type in any passwords on the screen. So if I jump inside my device for just a second, you'll see that if I tap on it, and I tap on, in this case, My Meetings and Files, and then I hit Sign In, what you'll see that'll happen is it'll bring up a list of users. I like to think of this like Avis Preferred or Herbst Gold. The day where you would walk across the airport and walk up to the counter and you say, I don't have to wait in line. I just see my name on a board and I can go directly to my car, show my ID to the gate attendant and get going. Well, in this case, I just tap on my name. I'm going to pretend to be this person called Jane Demo, and then I go ahead and hit continue. And now when I hit continue, it actually says send notification. And the reason that it says send notification is because Jane Demo is set up as an Azure Active Directory multi-factor authenticated user using the Microsoft Authenticator app. Now, you don't need to memorize that. I always just like to say it. But I'm going to hit send notification because what I'll get is a notification on my iPhone here using the Microsoft Authenticator app, and know that you could use this on Android as well. But I can come in here and it says there's a 32 on the screen, and I want to type in now 32 on my iPhone in the Authenticator app, and then I use my fingerprint as my second form factor of authentication. And now what happens is the device starts to authenticate to the, or my account starts to authenticate to the Surface Hub and set up what's called single sign-on, meaning I can now go to any application and sign in, but I don't have to re-authenticate. Now that is powerful because that gets me into my Word and PowerPoint and Excel and Power BI and all these other environments. Now I will admit my demo tenant has a small bug in it that it requires me to do twice the authentication. So I'll say if two form factor authentication is good, quad authentication is even better. Now that's a joke, but it's a bug that I'm working out on my demo tenant. But here it'll authenticate me and get me in, so I'll be able to now launch in. And so now I'm going ahead and I'm opening up my Office 365 environment, and I can get to my most recently used files. And one of them could be this PowerPoint that allows me to authenticate. Sometimes my device has some gremlins in it, so I'm going to say that I'm sorry for this, but I'm hitting every gremlin that I can hit at this point. But it'll authenticate me and allow me to get to my PowerPoint in that different space. Now, it's not going to do this again, but it would allow me to, through single sign-on, get into here and then bring up that exact same deck that we were sharing with Alma, that Alma was sharing, which is that Contoso Mark 8 deck that we were using and marking up and editing. But the other piece, Joe, that I love to show is more the actual Edge browser. And so the Edge browser brings in this new condition where if I jump into the screen for just a second, you'll notice that what it's asking me is to sync my profile. And I love this feature. Honestly, this is probably my favorite new feature within the piece, because when I hit sync, what it does is it pulls in all of Jane Demo's most recently used files. It pulls in her tabs across. So you'll notice across the top of the screen, it now says Microsoft Teams. It says Mail. It says Office 365. It even allows me to join a Zoom or a WebEx meeting. And I have that capability to do all of those things. Now, I could simply come into my Office environment, and it's not going to require me to sign in, and it'll give me my list of most recently used files. And I can now be able to access all of that because my passwords are now cached into the Edge browser. But the other cool thing that I could do is I could actually come into maybe my mail, because my mail might have a link to like a Zoom meeting. And so in this case, I can come down to this Zoom meeting and be able to actually just tap on that link. And then that link will allow me to join a Zoom meeting straight from my Surface Hub, because the camera, speakers, and microphones all enumerate themselves to this Edge browser. So I can come in here and it would actually allow me to launch this meeting and then join from my browser. And then I could actually just type in my name really fast, Frank, and then be able to join this meeting. Now, I will say this Zoom piece is on my wife's Zoom account, but so she's probably getting a notification like, hey, there's a meeting started that you should probably think about. But in this case, I can turn on my camera, speaker, microphone, and do all of this through Zoom or WebEx or other pieces as well. So I just like to showcase that being able to do an easy login, and I know there was a bug that kind of made it look like it was a little longer, but it really takes about 30 seconds with passwordless authentication, and I'm able to get to all of my most recent files, or even using OneDrive through office.com in order to get to my entire environment. And then the last thing that I would show is that I have the ability also to come back here to Microsoft Teams, and I can come back to Teams. Let me go back and hit and it will actually pull up my full-blown version of Teams. And so here I can now essentially get into all my SharePoint files, or my the teams where I want to be able to access and talk to people. Now, Jane Demo, she's only a member of one team, but in this case, she has some persistent chat in here where she actually had a link in here where if I tapped on that link, it would actually say, hey, do you want to open up this web piece? And I can go ahead and open this up because it opens up a whiteboard. Whoops. In this case, it opened up a whiteboard that I didn't have access to, but normally I'm able to now open up a whiteboard and be able to get to it in all those different spaces. So that kind of shows the flow of being able to authenticate and then be able to easily get to your Office 365 content, as well as all your Edge browser settings and everything else that you have.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a question that I get all the time is, can I save some favorites in Edge if I go to something all the time? Maybe it's a company landing page or an internal corporate intranet page. Can I save that quickly? And this is a great way to make all of those shortcuts that I use all the time in a meeting accessible and sync my browser tabs there. So yeah, very, very cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll add on to that.
Yeah.
When you're done, we have the end session button because Frank's credentials are on there. He downloaded content and did all sorts of stuff on there, and so that end session button cleans up the device, wipes out browser history, login credentials. There's no trace of them being on the machine, which is a huge benefit in this digital age, right? We can all remember the days of trying to erase that analog whiteboard and it didn't quite erase, and you're like, it's good enough. I'll come back later. Yep. I'm not coming back.
Yeah, I know. I usually spend about 5 minutes just going through the importance of that end session functionality so that it's the same experience every time for every person or group that walks into the room. They know for a fact they walk up, it's going to be the same experience every time because every session is unique and independent, and the Surface Hub resets itself and gets ready for the next group and next session. So yeah, very, very cool. Yeah. So in the spirit of looking at the clock here, I know we've got a couple more demos we want to get through, super important stuff. And I know that one of the areas that we see a lot of innovation and thoughtfulness is device management, especially at scale when IT staff is stretched thin trying to support now both in-office and remote workers. So Mark, what tools, I know you've got it queued up here, what tools do we have in our toolbox to make managing Surface Hubs easier? And what are some of the best practices that we would look to leverage?
Yeah, so we got a bunch of new things that have come out on Surface Hub when it comes to managing the device. And one of them is getting it into the Teams Admin Center. So you can see the Surface Hub is listed there. Now, this isn't quite live yet, but the big update we did back in the fall put all the plumbing in necessary. It's sitting there on your hub already today. We're just waiting for the cloud to dot its I's and cross its T's before it shows up here. And I'll show a live demo of that here in a second. But this will give you the ability to manage the Surface Hubs just like you do all your other Teams devices, whether it's a Windows device or Android or phones or Teams displays. Second, we have the Endpoint Manager. We've had the Endpoint Manager for a long time to push down configuration and whatnot. What we just launched a couple weeks ago was the Surface Device Management Portal. And this is a special new tab inside MEM that will correlate all your Surface devices. And as long as your Surface device is in the Intune or MEM, it will show up in the Surface Management Portal. And that includes the Surface Hub. So that will give you a unique capability to manage inventory. And this also goes to support tickets and warranty. And I'll show you that in a second too. And I would say these two things, or if you want to do management on your own and you say, hey, I've got it under control, I'm just going to use the tools that come with it. And this aligns with our Microsoft Teams Room standard license that you would put on a hub or a Microsoft Teams Rooms. If you want additional assistance with managing rooms, we get this a lot. You go, hey, I have a person that walks every single conference room to just double check that we're trying to be proactive, that we make sure that the room's going to work. How can we use that machine learning and artificial intelligence to do some of that on our behalf? And this is where the Teams Room managed services comes into play. And that's been around for Microsoft Teams Rooms Windows for a while, but the Surface Hub is on the verge of going into this portal here in the next several weeks too. So lots of interesting new tools. Let me just go out here and go to, we'll go to MEM first. So you can see I'm in the Microsoft Endpoint Manager here. If I go to all services, you'll see that there's a new tab here called Surface Management Portal. So if I click into here, this is the demo tenant that Frank and I use all the time, but it will give you, well, first there's 3 tabs up here: monitor, warranty, and support, which are the main functions of this new tool, but it gives you a highlight of the quantity of devices and the category, and this is kind of ranked on the number of devices that you have. You can say, hey, let me just quickly click in here. I can see an inventory of all my Surface devices, which include Surface Hubs and Duos and anything else that is Surface oriented. Over here, we have some insights of that inventory, right? Is the device compliant? Is it not registered? Things about storage, getting too low on a device to so that we can take proactive action to go fix some of these things. We also have support coverage here, but that ties up to the upper tab in warranty. And then we got our blog. So we, make it easy to stay informed and kept abreast of what's going on in the Surface world. So if I switch to the warranty tab, this will give you a highlight view of, hey, expired, we got devices covered, expiring, eligible, we just bought a new device, it doesn't have warranty on it, maybe we missed it when we ordered it. This will give you some clues on that. You can drill in and get a report of this too. Coverage, a column for the coverage so you can see and get all this type of information associated with the warranty. And then we get into support. And over here, and this is our demo tenant. We haven't opened any trouble tickets on there, but if we had, you would see them listed here on the left-hand side. And if you have a new problem and you want to open a support case, you can do it right here with our Get Help button. And so start the process. And we encourage you to use our SDT or our Surface Diagnostic tool. So you can use that, collect some logs and other diagnostic information so that when you go to open the support case, you can immediately do that. And it eliminates a back and forth, right? Normally you open a case and they're like, hey, can you go collect logs? And then there's a round trip and you can just save yourself some time by doing that up front. So that's the quick and dirty on the Surface Management Portal. There is a long roadmap that's coming out of more features that are going to come out here, but this just launched a couple weeks ago. So this is the first take of functionality on the portal itself. Let's move to Teams Admin Center. Did you have a question there, Joe?
Nope, I was just saying how cool it looked. So I'm excited for that feature.
Yeah, nice. So if we get into Teams Admin Center here I'm in the dashboard, you get into devices, you will see now that there's this new category called Surface Hub. We have Teams rooms on Windows, Teams rooms on Android. The purpose here is if you're familiar with the Teams Admin Center and managing your inventory for your MTRs through here, you should expect feature parity when you come into this tab on Surface Hub. So here we have a list of devices, the quantity, the health summary here. Here's the hub that's right behind me. I just swung this into the demo tenant last night, but you can see one of the biggest things we have about the Surface Hub is collecting logs from afar, and we now will have that once your hub starts showing up here. So you can collect the logs here. Just an hour or so, I went and did that, and you should see this in here in the diagnostic. It was queued up, and now I can just click on that and download the logs. So if you were going to open a trouble ticket, you can get the logs this way and upload them into the trouble ticket that you just opened up. This gives you all the familiar stuff if you're familiar with the Microsoft Teams rooms, the agents that are running on there, if they're up to date, the details about the Surface Hub, its IP address and serial number, the activity. You can see here's our practice call that we were in yesterday, and so I can drill in there and we can see all
Russell
the participants.
Wilson.
Russell Wilson came and joined us for a little bit in the call yesterday. But if he called and he was driving in his really expensive car on a cell phone and weak connectivity, that bar would look red, saying he was the culprit that was causing the issue in the Teams meeting. And so this gives you nice drilling capabilities to figure out, why a meeting had a bad experience. And then
that graph view is helpful too. I mean, that breakout view, instead of looking at it just in a list, you're actually seeing where people joined in and left and joined and left. That's very cool.
Absolutely. And then the final tool, switching over to our managed services room. So this is the managed service portal. which is not part of the Teams Admin Center. So this is a completely new service. They have their own portal itself. This is the managed services where Microsoft and can work with partners like Unified Communication to augment your own staff. But you can drill into here and you can see first there's a welcome page that gives you what's the latest happening in the managed service spaces, new things coming out, any announcements. You can drill in here, and over on the left-hand side, you can see incidents, all the rooms that you have, so your inventory of rooms, the reporting on the rooms, so ticket history and health, and things like that. So let me go back up to this incidents. So you can say, hey, we have 3 active. So the headline, none that need action, assigned to Microsoft. So when our telemetry, our tools pick up issues across your fleet of rooms that we would be managing, we would open a ticket. We can then connect it with ServiceNow and other tooling if the customer is really managing their tickets in a different type of tool, so we can get those things connected. But then who's got the responsibility for next steps, right? Is it the customer has the next step action, or is it Microsoft? So we assign actions and responsibilities, and you can work through the workflow on resolving those issues. And the power of this is Microsoft, if you manage your own fleet of, 50, 100, 500 rooms, what have you, you only get so much visibility. When Microsoft does it, we're going across lots of different customers. So we have thousands of devices in this service already. And so we, the big data, artificial intelligence capabilities of this, we get to sniff out things that were probably intermittent. And those are always the hardest ones to troubleshoot. And so then we can figure out and go put the pieces together. We will also work with the OEMs to try and help solve it from their perspective, but also keep you, the customer, informed on what's going on there.
Well, yeah. So I know technology, it seems to always work when you're looking at it, and then as soon as you walk away, that's when it breaks again, or when somebody tries to have another meeting in the room, right?
That's right. Those are the most aggravating ones to try and hunt down. So
when all else fails, rely on an AI to be your eyeballs in the room, constantly observing those intermittent issues. Yeah.
This managed service will let you, the customer, define rooms and rings. So how do you push updates out so you can say, hey, I got a early ring, so I'm going to put that on my service hub or MTR in the lab, and then cascade it out until you get to the more critical ones when you have full confidence in the software. A very new aspect of this tool that's just coming out is room planning. So we opened this whole session up about, hey, there's a new mental model around hybrid work. The rooms are probably going to change. The percentage of meeting rooms versus individual rooms is probably going to change. Now, this doesn't happen at a snap of the fingers. So how do you do this? How do you plan? And this is not just for the Microsoft equipment, the Service Hub or the MTRs. This tool will allow you to put in third-party equipment, whether you have DSPs for audio or video switchers and other things that you can inventory in this tool so that you can get a holistic way of managing your room inventory besides just the technology. So that was a quick overview of these tools.
Very nice.
Cool. Yeah, I know we're getting close on time. Joe, yep. I know we have a giveaway.
We do. Yeah. So we have a giveaway. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to give it away to the first person in chat. So get your chat queued up right now. Get your typing fingers ready. The first person in chat who doesn't work for Microsoft or Unified Communications. Yeah. The first person who can answer this question: what is the name of the company Frank was at before Microsoft that designed the technology behind Surface Hub? And go.
It's a hard one, although Frank did say it.
He did say it. So, yeah.
You have to spell it right.
You had to be paying attention at the beginning of the webinar.
We got it.
We got a winner. Corey Smith. Awesome.
All
so
right.
Corey, we'll reach out to you and get your information for that pair of Surface headphones that we're giving away here. So thank you for that. And then we just want to see if there's any questions in chat. And
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to have time. I think we'll have to take,
Yeah.
for anyone who has put in, there was a question around Teams Admin Center integration with
Okay.
Zendesk and alerting. I know the alerting functionality, there is some basic alerting functionality that was just
Within Teams,
added
yeah.
to Teams Admin Center, or for Teams Rooms specifically, but there is an evolving story there. The managed service has an ability certainly to both to email, and it has integration into ServiceNow. But we'll certainly, I would say, any other questions, please chat them in. We'll follow up with you offline to make sure that that we get anything addressed that we didn't have time to cover.
Yeah. So I just want to thank everyone and thank you to our guests today, Frank Buchholz, Mark Hodge. We really appreciate you joining us today. It has been great talking to you, seeing the demos, and from Ryan and myself and all of us at Unified Communications, we want to wish everyone a happy holidays. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time.
I will just say one, if there's anything you want to learn more about, so I know we covered some ground here, and so whether it's, I mean, you are working through the process of trying to identify what your hybrid strategy looks like. If you want to go deep into Surface Hub, if you want to figure out how can you touch and demo Surface Hub, because I know as much as Frank's got a great setup and we're able to kind of, it's almost like we're there in the studio with you, but this type of technology is something that at some point you want to touch and feel. So I would just say reach out. The team at Unified Communications, folks like Joe and I are here to help guide customers through putting together a great strategy. I know folks like Mark and Frank join us in those discussions frequently, and so we're all, I guess, on behalf of Unified Communications and Microsoft. We know this is a probably among the most challenging times that any of us in this industry have ever had to. The decisions that we're making right now are so impactful. So just know you've got an A team kind of here to help. And we need some of this technology. We don't know what mix of this you need, but you need some of this type of technology in a plan to truly call some of your rooms hybrid. Yeah, I guess on behalf of the team, we appreciate you. It's a wrap, and big thanks to Frank and Mark, our guests from Microsoft.
Oh, it's great. We love the partnership. Thank you.